Chapter 71. Treasure Chest, Meeting Again. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 71. Treasure Chest, Meeting Again. Translator. Dragon Boat Translation Editor. Dragon Boat Translation, Geno Oregon can be used to break gene locks. After the gene chain had been refined to 100%, the gene lock had to be broken to break through and open a new gene chain. However, it was extremely difficult to break the genetic lock, especially the higher the level, the harder it was to open the genetic lock. It could only be done by using a special method. Geno ores were one of them. The Geno ore was a special item that could be dropped by any beast. It contained a special type of genetic energy that could be used to break through the gene seal. But the drop rate for an ordinary beast was practically zero. The higher the level of the beast, the higher the drop rate. Progressor Geno ores had a higher drop rate among boss level monsters. Of course, not every boss monster dropped a Geno ore. This was why Lu Yuan was a little excited. He didn't expect the first boss he killed to drop it. He was quite lucky. Originally, when Lu Yuan's honing reached 100%, he still needed to spend a long time hunting elite beasts and leader beasts. He didn't expect to obtain a Geno ore now. He carefully put away the raw gemstone, planning to use it when he broke through. After he put away the Geno ores and crystals, Lu Yuan looked at the body of the ancient sea crocodile leader. The ancient sea crocodile leader's corpse was full of treasures. The most precious things were the horn on its head and its skin. However, at the chieftain level, even the flesh of the ancient sea crocodiles contained a lot of spirit energy. Eating the flesh of the ancient sea crocodiles would also increase the speed of cultivation. Although the spiritual power contained in the flesh couldn't be compared to that of a spiritual crystal, it won in that it was very gentle to absorb. Genetic warriors had to eat, after all. Eating the flesh of a leader-level beast was better than eating ordinary food. After Lu Yuan kept the horn and the ancient sea giant crocodile's leather armor, he looked at the corpse that was more than 10 meters long with a conflicted expression. The corpse was too big. Although his war rune space was about 8 to 9 meters wide, if he kept all the flesh and blood, he would have to use up most of the space. Lu Yuan thought for a while and finally only took the parts that looked more delicious like thigh meat. After collecting the corpse of the ancient sea giant crocodile leader, Lu Yuan looked around. He looked in the direction of the pool and then looked at the open space. It was a little dark inside the open space, and Lu Yuan could not see the situation inside. He thought for a while. The ancient sea giant crocodile leader had come here even when it was on the verge of death. This place could be its nest, and there could be other treasures. He might as well go in and take a look. Lu Yuan moved towards the interior of the open space. The open space was full of broken rocks. The deeper he went, the stronger the rancid smell, making Lu Yuan feel uncomfortable. The smell was a little too strong. As he went deeper, Lu Yuan gradually saw the scene inside. There were many broken bones and corpses on the ground. From the looks of it, they were the corpses of other fierce beasts. These should be the bones left behind by the ancient sea crocodile. And in the innermost part of the open space, there was a bronze box. When Lu Yuan saw the box, his eyes widened slightly and he looked pleasantly surprised. It was a good thing he didn't go out directly. He didn't expect to find a treasure chest here. He did not care about the pungent smell and the feces of the ancient sea giant crocodile as he walked to the treasure chest. The treasure chest was not locked, so Lu Yuan opened it easily. There was a white jade stone, a green light ball, and a green light ball inside. Inside the green ball of light was a black ring with blue patterns carved on it. It looked very exquisite. Inside the green ball of light was a dark blue robe. Lu Yuan quickly picked up everything. Naturally, there was no need to mention the ores. The black ring was called the Torrent Ring. After wearing it, it could greatly increase one's mental strength, and slightly increase one's strength, defense, and agility. Not only that, but after injecting spiritual power into the ring, it could also activate a water arrow. However, it required time to recharge after each activation, and it could only be used once a day. Lu Yuan was pleasantly surprised. A leader-level equipment, and it was even an accessory type, its value was no less than the moonstone he currently had. Lu Yuan tried to absorb the riptide ring but realized that he was still lacking a little. He had refined quite a lot, but it was still a lot of pressure for him to get a chieftain Geno weapon. It would be difficult for an ordinary elite warrior to equip a chieftain-level equipment. Lu Yuan's transcendent gene was a defense-type gene. In addition, he had used a lot of moonstone essence and moonstone spirit dew. His body was very strong now, but he still needed to improve it a little more if he wanted to use the second gene. He should be able to do it when the refinement degree was almost full. Lu Yuan put away the torrent ring, planning to absorb it later. As for the dark blue robe, it was an elemental warrior equipment that mainly improved spiritual power. To Lu Yuan, it did not have much use. He kept the robe and planned to auction it later. After that, Lu Yuan searched the other areas of the open space. After making sure he didn't miss anything, he jumped into the pool. There was a passage under the pool. Lu Yuan swam along the passage and soon came to the bottom of the pool, which was more spacious. The light from the sun could be seen on it. Lu Yuan swam upstream and soon came out of the pool in the valley. The pool was still surrounded by the corpses of the ancient sea crocodiles. The water in the pool had a trace of dark red and reeked of blood. Lu Yuan swam out of the pool and left the valley along the river without stopping. After walking along the river outside the valley for some distance, Lu Yuan heaved a sigh of relief and smiled. He had gained a lot this time. He received 2 Geno ores, 1 elite.class transcendent gene, 2 leader.class equipment, 2 elite.class equipment, and some materials and flesh of the ancient sea crocodile leader. That would probably be worth a few million crystals. Lu Yuan took a deep breath and turned to enter the forest. Not long after, he found a quiet open space against the mountain wall and stopped to rest. He had used a powerful healing potion to recover from his injuries, and now his injuries were almost fully recovered. However, he was still physically and mentally exhausted from such an intense battle, so he planned to rest here for the day. Lu Yuan took out the barbecue rack and some ancient sea crocodile meat, planning to roast the gnawed-level ferocious beast's flesh and eat it. He found a place to sit down and began to roast the meat. The flames rose and the flesh turned golden after seasoning. The oil continued to drip into the flame and sizzled. A strange fragrance hit his face, making Lu Yuan swallow his saliva. I've heard that the flesh of leader-level ferocious beasts is delicious, but I didn't expect it to be so fragrant. His cooking skills were terrible, but he could still roast it so well. It was completely the taste of the ingredients themselves. Just as Lu Yuan was waiting for the meat to be cooked, a faint voice sounded beside him, "Are you done?" When Lu Yuan heard the voice, he was stunned. Then, his back broke out in cold sweat, and all the hair on his body stood on end. The F***CK. There was someone beside him. He exerted all his strength and rushed to the side at the fastest speed he had ever seen. He looked in the direction of the sound. He then saw a humanoid cat squatting beside his previous position, staring at the golden roasted meat. Her long black hair was draped over her back, and her black cat ears were trembling slightly. Her black tail was also swaying a little, but her beautiful white face was expressionless. Under the setting sun, the beautiful cat girl looked like a black elf. However, Lu Yuan felt a chill in his heart. Wasn't this feline girl the one he saw in the desert chasing after the sand crocodile leader? That was the most powerful genetic warrior Lu Yuan had ever seen. He had a deep impression of it. But when did this cat girl come to the ancient sea oasis? And when did she appear beside him? He didn't feel anything at all. Lu Yuan's back was covered in cold sweat. If the cat girl had attacked him just now, he would have been dead. Although he had been on his guard the entire time and had activated body of black iron, he didn't think that his defense would be effective against a monster that could chase after a boss-level dire beast. Should I run now? From the speed of this feline girl last time, it seems that I can't escape. What to do? This time, he had such a great harvest. Was he going to make a wedding dress for someone else? Lu Yuan looked at the cat girl, his thoughts spinning quickly. Just as Lu Yuan was thinking, the cat girl turned to look at him, her dark vertical eyes calm. It's about to burn. Lu Yuan was confused. Chapter 72. What is a man? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 72. What is a man? Translator. Dragon Boat Translation Editor. Dragon Boat Translation. When Lu Yuan heard the cat girl's words, he was stunned. The cat-person girl reminded again, if you don't flip it, it'll be burnt. Lu Yuan came back to his senses and looked in the direction of the barbecue. He found that there was already a trace of smoke coming out of the crocodile meat. If it was not turned over for a long time, it would be easily burnt. But who are you? Who would know you? Why did you have to remind me to flip the meat? Lu Yuan resisted the urge to ridicule him. The corner of his mouth twitched, and he asked vigilantly, Miss Cat. Is there anything I can help you with? The cat-person girl pointed at the roasted meat with her finger on her knee. I'll eat grilled fish. Lu Yuan was speechless. Did this cat girl come here just to eat fish? Is that true? Lu Yuan did not believe it. But then again, crocodiles seem to be amphibians, not fish, right? He sized up the cat-person girl and hesitated, not daring to go over. What if he was killed by the cat-person girl after he went over? The cat-person girl spoke again, it's about to be burnt. Her tail wagged a little more, and she seemed to be a little uneasy. Oh, I see. I'll continue to roast it. Lu Yuan glanced at the cat-person girl's wagging tail and walked back silently to continue roasting meat. He finally gave in. The cat girl was far more powerful than him. It could be seen from the fact that he didn't feel anything when the cat-person girl appeared beside him. He definitely couldn't run away. Looking at the cat-person girl's attitude, she didn't seem to have any malicious intentions. If the cat-person girl really wanted to kill him, she would have done so earlier. He would not have been able to react in time. Lu Yuan thought about it and decided to calm her down so that she would not be annoyed. Maybe there's still a chance. Lu Yuan turned over the roasted meat in silence, occasionally stealing glances at the cat girl. The cat-person girl seemed to not feel Lu Yuan's gaze at all, staring at the golden crocodile meat. Lu Yuan could even see the cat-person girl's throat moving, as if she was swallowing her saliva. Did this cat-human really just want to eat grilled fish? Even so, Lu Yuan did not let his guard down and was still thinking of a way to escape. Even if he drank a strong speed potion, his speed would definitely be much slower than the cat girl's. It was definitely not possible to escape directly. Should he try a sneak attack? However, considering that the cat girl had appeared beside him without him knowing, Lu Yuan was a little hesitant. If the sneak attack failed, he would be dead. Was there any other way? Lu Yuan thought of many plans and finally eliminated them one by one. He helplessly discovered that he was completely helpless in front of this strange cat-person girl. Just as Lu Yuan was thinking, the cat-person girl's indifferent voice sounded again, "Are you done?" Lu Yuan came back to his senses and glanced at the roasted meat. It should be done. As soon as Lu Yuan finished speaking, the cat-person girl looked at him. Under the cat-person girl's expressionless gaze, the corners of Lu Yuan's mouth twitched, revealing a stiff smile. He took out a plate and put the roasted meat on it. Please eat. The cat-person girl silently took the plate, took out a small knife, and slowly cut the roasted meat, putting it into her mouth. Then, her eyes lit up and she ate faster. Seeing the cat girl's appearance, Lu Yuan was a little nervous. This. Miss, are you satisfied? The cat-person girl nodded silently. Lu Yuan heaved a sigh of relief. Then, he let out a dry laugh. Miss, I just remembered that I have something to do. Should I leave first? The cat-person girl glanced at Lu Yuan. I still want more. Lu Yuan was speechless. Did she mean that she wanted him to continue roasting? He finally understood why men didn't like to hear women say that they wanted more. He quietly took out a piece of crocodile meat and continued to roast it. Lu Yuan was roasting the fish in silence while the cat girl was eating the fish in silence. The two of them fell silent. After a moment of silence, Lu Yuan thought of something and struggled for a long time. He couldn't help but say, this is the meat of an ancient sea crocodile. Crocodiles aren't fish, they're amphibians. As a good young man who had received compulsory education, he felt that he had to stand on the side of knowledge. Hearing Lu Yuan's words, the cat-person girl turned to look at him and said seriously, it's fish, it's very fragrant. Lu Yuan. If it's very fragrant, it's fish. What kind of logic is this? Lu Yuan opened his mouth, but he didn't know how to refute. Then, he realized that this cat-person girl seemed to be quite easy to talk to. Why don't I try to get close to her, maybe she'll let me go later. Lu Yuan thought of this and asked tentatively, what's your name? Yay, Lu Yuan was speechless. Fortunately, it was the fourth time. If it was the second time, I would suspect that you were taking advantage of me. Yi, how did you get to my side just now? I didn't even notice it. Lu Yuan looked at Yi and asked tentatively. I walked over. Lu Yuan was speechless. Nonsense. If you didn't walk here, did you crawl here? Did this guy even know how to speak? No, I can't give up yet. Lu Yuan wanted to continue probing, but at this moment, the cat ears on Yi Ye's head moved and she turned to look in the direction of the jungle. Seeing this, Lu Yuan was stunned and looked over as well. Not long after, 4 figures walked out of the forest. Lu Yuan saw 4 tall kobolds. The 4 kobolds looked at Lu Yuan and Yi, then at the golden roasted meat, and sneered. One of the dog-headed people with white fur laughed and said, it's quite fragrant. The two of you sure know how to enjoy life, but I wonder if you've ever thought about luring us over. Hand over all the things in the war room space. The other dog-headed man with black fur also laughed. Otherwise, if I kill you here, not only will you not gain anything this time, but you'll also have to recover your spirit before you can continue to enter the origin source grounds. The 4 of us are all inscribed with elite genes. I hope you won't fail to appreciate my kindness. Hearing this, Lu Yuan's pupils shrank slightly. All of them were inscribed with elite genes. Wonderful. The 4 elite warriors should be able to hold off Yi for a while. If that was the case, perhaps he could escape. Pull aggro. Lu Yuan sneered coldly and was about to start mocking the other side when Yi, who was squatting on the ground, stood up. After he stood up, Lu Yuan realized that Yi Ye's figure was quite good. She was tall and slender, and her hot figure could be seen even when she wore leather armor. A pitch-black longsword appeared in Yi Ye's hand. She looked at the 4 kobolds expressionlessly. You can't disturb Yi while she's eating yummy food. The 4 dog-headed people were stunned for a moment before they burst out laughing. I'm disturbing you while you're eating. Kitten, it seems like you don't understand your current situation. Don't worry, we'll send you back to your mother's arms to drink milk. Seeing this, the corners of Lu Yuan's mouth curled up and he revealed a smile. Yes, my comrades. Keep it up and continue to pull aggro. When night comes, I'll be able to escape. Just as Lu Yuan was looking forward to Yi Ye's battle with the four Houndhead men, Yi Ye's body disappeared. The next moment, Lu Yuan saw a black shadow flash by the four kobolds, accompanied by a dark sword light. The four kobolds froze on the spot. Yi Ye's body appeared behind the four dog-headed people. Her back was facing the four dog-headed people, and the pitch-black longsword in her hand had already been withdrawn. Streaks of blood appeared on the bodies of the four dog-headed people. Fresh blood spurted out, and their corpses fell to the ground at the same time. The smile on Lu Yuan's face froze. What the hell was that? For elite kobold warriors had died just like that. I didn't even have the time to run. Lu Yuan felt a bone-piercing chill in his heart. Yi Ye's strength was much stronger than he had imagined. Yi turned around and walked back. He didn't even look at the four kobolds. His expression didn't change, as if he had just killed four chicks. She returned to her previous position and squatted down silently. Her fair hands were placed on her knees as she looked at the roasted meat. She swallowed her saliva and said, "Are you done?" Only then did Lu Yuan realize that she had finished the roasted meat on her plate. It'll be ready in a moment, Master Yi, please wait a moment. Lu Yuan was all smiles. He had already given up struggling. I can't afford to offend you. Who could withstand this? He felt that he was cold after taking one step. I'm too miserable, right? How did he encounter such a monster? Lu Yuan sighed in his heart, hoping that he could please Comrade Yi to her heart's content so she would have mercy on his pitiful life. What was a man? He must know when to be soft or hard, when to be long or short. Lu Yuan was already mentally prepared to endure the hardship. Chapter 73. High-quality wealthy lady. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 73. High-quality wealthy lady. Translator. Dragon Boat Translation Editor. Dragon Boat Translation. Very quickly, the meat was done. The golden roasted meat was dripping with oil, and the fragrance assailed the nose. Master Yi, please enjoy. Be careful not to burn yourself. The portion of this roast meat was several times larger than the previous one. Lu Yuan considerately cut the roast meat into small pieces, put them on the plate, and handed them to Yi. Yi took the plate, picked up the roast meat, and took a bite. Then she squinted her big eyes in satisfaction, wagging her tail behind her, looking a little happy. Seeing this, Lu Yuan heaved a sigh of relief. After sucking up to her heart's content, she wouldn't just pull up her pants and refuse to recognize him, right? Perhaps if he handed over some of his gains, he would not be killed. He might be able to keep some good things. At the very least, he wouldn't have to die and drag down the time he would have to come back again. Seeing Yi eating it in small bites, Lu Yuan could not help but swallow his saliva. He was already exhausted from the battle. Now that he had been busy for half a day and had not eaten anything, he was very hungry. Lu Yuan glanced at the satisfied Yi and took out a plate and a table knife. He cut a few pieces of meat and tasted it himself. The taste was not bad. As expected of me, I can do anything I want. Lu Yuan nodded in satisfaction. However, Lu Yuan suspected that it was due to the quality of the ancient sea crocodile meat. After all, it was a leader-level beast. Very quickly, Yi finished eating and turned to look at Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan understood immediately and smiled. Here, Master Yi, give me the plate. I'll cut it for you. Yi handed the plate to Lu Yuan, and Lu Yuan served Yi another plate of roasted meat. The two of them ate the roasted meat slowly. Every time Yi finished eating, Lu Yuan would help her get some. Although Yi looked slender, she ate more than Lu Yuan. Very quickly, a large piece of roasted meat was finished. Yi put down the plate in satisfaction, her tail wagging non-stop. Lu Yuan looked at the wriggling furry tail and wanted to grab it and touch it, but he definitely didn't dare to. Of course, he wasn't afraid of death. He just felt that it would be impolite. Lu Yuan felt that he was definitely not the kind of person who was afraid of death. Yi Yi stood up. She had eaten so much roasted meat, but her stomach did not grow at all. Lu Yuan looked at her flat stomach and was shocked. Could it be that her stomach was connected to another dimension? The things there are for you. It's for your meal. Yi Yi pointed at the position where the kobolds were previously. Lu Yuan looked over. He discovered that the four dog-headed people's corpses had already turned into rays of light and dissipated, leaving behind a ground full of materials, spirit crystals, and even a long spear that was flashing with green light. An elite Geno weapon. For me. Lu Yuan was stunned. He turned to look at Yi Yi, only to find that the cat girl had disappeared. Lu Yuan did not even notice how she had left. He left. Lu Yuan's eyes widened in disbelief. He had thought that Yi Yi would kill him and take away his gains this time. At the very least, she would want him to hand over some treasures or something. He didn't expect that it was really just for the sake of eating grilled fish. Bah! Crocodiles were not fish. Not only did he eat roasted crocodile meat every night, he even paid for his meal. And it was an elite Geno weapon. An elite Geno weapon was worth 10,000 crystals. Although the flesh and blood of the leader of the berserk beasts were precious, it was not worth mentioning compared to the elite-grade equipment. Not to mention, in addition to the elite-grade equipment, there were also many crystals and materials. This meal was a huge profit. What kind of high-quality rich lady was this? Lu Yuan was dumbfounded and did not come back to his senses. Then, Lu Yuan slapped his thigh with a pained expression. I actually didn't get Comrade Yi Ye's contact information. Such a silly person with money. No, such a high-quality rich woman, shouldn't she become a long-term customer? He could even cook for her every day. What a pity. Lu Yuan felt that he had lost 100 million yuan and was a little dejected. Next time, I must get Comrade Yi Ye's contact information. It didn't matter if the meal was paid for or not, the main thing was that Comrade Yi Yi was good-looking. As Lu Yuan thought about this, he ran to the place where the four kobolds had died and picked up the items they had dropped. There were 27 pieces of oasis demonic leopard skin, 34 pieces of ancient sea giant crocodile skin, 15 horns of ancient sea single-horn sheep, 1262 spirit crystals, and an elite-grade spear. It could be said to be a big profit. Lu Yuan put away his things in satisfaction, then opened the tent to rest. Even when he slept, the corners of his mouth were raised. In the real world. In Lu Yuan's room, he was sitting on a wooden bed. The spirit crystal in his hand was quickly absorbed by him and turned into powder. In Lu Yuan's consciousness, the gene chain that was shrouded in white fog was flashing with a dazzling white light. Only a small section at the top was still a little dim. Wisps of spirit energy passed through the white mist and merged into the dim light at the top of the gene chain. The area quickly became bright. As time passed, the light at the top became as bright as the other areas. Boom! As the entire gene chain glowed, the white mist began to surge. Gradually, the white mist at the top of the genetic chain began to disperse. After the white mist dispersed, a black chain was revealed. The chain sealed the top of the gene chain, and on top of it was a very dim, small section of the new gene chain. This was the genetic lock. Only by breaking the gene lock could one break through to the first rank. Lu Yuan opened his eyes, and a hint of surprise flashed in his eyes. After spending close to a month, his gene chain's honing had finally reached 100%. This speed was far beyond Lu Yuan's plan. He had thought that he would need more than a month, or even close to 2 months to break through. The most important reason was naturally the large amount of moonstone essence. This allowed his cultivation speed to increase by a large margin, saving him close to 20 days of time. Next, he only needed to break the genetic lock and he would be able to break through. Lu Yuan's consciousness entered the war rune dimension. Looking at the two ores that were flashing with white light, he revealed a smile. The ores that he had obtained previously came at the right time. Lu Yuan had already searched the battle net for the method to break the genetic lock. Using the ores was the most direct and effective way. As long as he absorbed the ore's rich origin force, he could use it to break through the gene lock. The difficulty of absorbing an ore was much higher than that of absorbing a spirit crystal. An ordinary genetic warrior would need several days to absorb a piece of ore, and they would need to make good preparations before making a breakthrough. However, Lu Yuan was different. He felt that he would not need too long. Lu Yuan took a deep breath and sat cross-legged on the wooden bed. He held an ore tightly and began to absorb it. Strands of rich force slowly entered Lu Yuan's body, passing through the white mist and reaching the gene chain region. Lu Yuan's consciousness moved, controlling this rich force to attack the black chains. The black chains that were wrapped around the gene strands began to shake violently. With the vibration of the black chain, even the white mist began to surge. The gene strands also trembled slightly. Lu Yuan felt a sharp pain in his body. This was a pain that came from the depths of his genes. If one wanted to break the gene lock, there was naturally a price to pay. Breaking through the gene lock would cause a certain impact on the gene chain, which would affect the body. Some geniuses with good statuses could use special potions or heavenly treasures to protect their genetic strands, but ordinary genetic warriors did not have such good circumstances. Naturally, they could only resist. As a result, breaking through the gene lock was very slow. Lu Yuan's body was stronger. Although he was also resisting the impact, his speed was still quite fast. However, pain was inevitable. Crack. After an unknown period of time, a crack appeared on one of the black chains. A crisp voice rang in Lu Yuan's ears. Lu Yuan was overjoyed. This was already the beginning of a breakthrough. He continued to attack, and the crack on the black chain grew bigger and bigger. In the end, one of the black chains shattered and turned into wisps of black smoke. However, there was not only one black chain. There were 3 in total. Just as Lu Yuan was about to continue, he felt that his force was insufficient. Lu Yuan was stunned and opened his eyes. The stone ore in his hand had already turned into a ball of powder. Lu Yuan frowned slightly. It's been used up so quickly. But this is normal. After Lu Yuan's refinement had reached 90% and above, he began to search for posts on the battle network regarding breaking the genetic lock. Naturally, there were posts about using ores to break the gene lock. Normally, the strength of the genetic lock was related to the transcendent gene that had been carved before. It was also related to the body of the genetic warrior. The higher the talent of a genius, the weaker the genetic lock, and the easier it was to break and advance. However, the stronger the transcendent gene carved, the stronger the gene seal would be, and the difficulty of advancing would also increase. What Lu Yuan had inscribed was an elite transcendent gene. The gene seal itself was already harder to break than ordinary genetic warriors who had inscribed ordinary genes. According to the information on the post that Lu Yuan had read back then, the gene lock of an elite gene would normally require 5 to 10 ores to break. If it was a particularly outstanding genius, the number of ores required would be reduced. Now that Lu Yuan had broken one chain and used 1 ore, he still had 2 more chains, so he needed 2 more ores. Breaking the gene lock required 3 ores, so that was less than 5. This meant that Lu Yuan's talent was already quite outstanding. Unfortunately, Lu Yuan only had 2 ores now. This meant that he needed 1 more to completely break the gene lock. Chapter 74. The Plan, Firelight. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 74. The Plan, Firelight. Translator. Dragon Boat Translation Editor. Dragon Boat Translation. I'll try looking for a boss.level beast after I enter the origin source grounds. Perhaps I'll get another or if I kill one. After all, I'm quite lucky. If he really couldn't do it, he would go to the Battle Network store to take a look. Perhaps there were ores for sale there. Lu Yuan thought helplessly. At this time, Lu Yuan realized that the sky outside the window had become much darker, and the street lights had been turned on. He looked at the time. It was already 6:24 p.m. Lu Yuan started to absorb the ores at 12 noon and took about 6 hours. He only needed a few breaths to absorb a spiritual crystal, so one could imagine how difficult it was to absorb an ore. However, compared to other genetic warriors, Lu Yuan was still several times faster. At night, Lu Yuan did not continue to absorb the remaining ore. That black shadow might appear at night. He was not in the origin source grounds now. If he were to indulge in absorbing the ore, he would not be able to avoid the black shadow if it appeared. It would be too dangerous. He would continue tomorrow. Lu Yuan thought for a moment and opened the Battle Network. He first went to the Battle Network store to search for information on Geno ores. Not for sale. Lu Yuan was not surprised. After all, Geno ores were too precious. No matter who it was, as long as they were genetic warriors, they would need this thing. If they put it up for sale, it would definitely be snatched away at the first moment. Even if most genetic warriors had extra ores, they would most likely put them up for auction in order to obtain a higher profit. However, it would take more than 10 days for the auction house in Sandstone City to start, and there might not be any by then. Lu Yuan could only consider hunting the leader beast. Previously, although Lu Yuan had killed the ancient sea giant crocodile leader, he knew his own situation. His strength was still far from that of the ancient sea giant crocodile leader. The reason why he was able to kill the ancient sea giant crocodile leader was partly due to luck. Another reason was that the ancient sea giant crocodile leader was slow, which gave Lu Yuan the opportunity to exhaust it to death. If he were to look for another beast leader, Lu Yuan would prefer to look for those who were slower and had weaker defense. If it was an elemental type, it might be better. After all, as long as he could survive till the stage where the leader of the beasts used its combat skills, Lu Yuan would have a chance when its spiritual energy was exhausted. Lu Yuan pondered as he clicked on the post in the Battle Network in the Sandstone City area. He wanted to see if there was any news about the boss.level beast. Although most of the leader.level beasts were discovered by the elite powerhouses of Sandrock City, they had their own circle and could hunt together without sharing the information on the Battle Network. Even if they were to post information, it would be after they were done hunting. However, it was also possible that an ordinary warrior would accidentally see a leader beast and post the address for money. Lu Yuan was disappointed. He searched through all the posts, but he couldn't find anything about the location of the leader beast. He could only go in and look for it himself. Sandrock City was so big, and he didn't know how long it would take to find it. Moreover, he might not be able to kill the leader of the beasts he found. He was already considered lucky to have encountered the ancient sea giant crocodile leader last time. Lu Yuan rubbed his forehead, feeling a slight headache. However, this was something that could not be helped. For example, Wang Xiangxiang had already reached 100% for a period of time, but she had yet to break through. One could imagine that the difficulty of breaking through was not low. Lu Yuan was already considering whether he should cooperate with others when the time came. For example, Lu Shi's Tianfu Financial Group would be a good choice. The Tianfu Financial Group should have their own elite soldiers. If they formed a team, it would be much easier to kill the leader beast. Lu Yuan thought about it and decided to try it himself first. If it really didn't work, he would think about it later. For now, I'll just increase my strength a little. Lu Yuan took out the riptide ring that he had placed in the battle rune dimension. With a thought, he absorbed the riptide ring into his body. Instantly, Lu Yuan felt his spirit turn cold and he became more sensitive. At the same time, his strength and defense had also improved slightly. A leader-level Geno weapon was a great boost to a person. Most importantly, the Riptide Ring had a water arrow combat skill. Lu Yuan knew the power of the water arrow combat technique. Even he would be seriously injured if he was hit by it. This could be considered a trump card. Lu Yuan smiled as his strength increased again. Soon, it was 10 o'clock and Lu Yuan entered the land of origin again. In the forest of the ancient sea oasis, Lu Yuan's body appeared. He looked around and moved deeper into the ancient sea oasis. If he wanted to find the leader of the beasts, the core area of the ancient sea oasis had a better chance. After Lu Yuan entered the land of origin, in the real world, the deep night shrouded Shili City. The other areas were brightly lit with neon lights, as if they were a city that never slept. In the slums, only the streetlights flickered in the evening light. The streets were deserted and extremely quiet. The chain restaurants, grocery stores, and small supermarkets that were open during the day in the slums would be closed at night. Otherwise, they would definitely be robbed by hooligans. In the neighborhood, there were very few tenants with their lights on. For the tenants living in the slums, their income was low and they were very tight on money. Even if it was only a small amount of electricity, they would not waste it if they could. What's more was that most of the residents in the slums could only do some physical work. They were already very tired after a day. If they didn't rest well, it would affect their work the next day. In a very ordinary neighborhood, 2 wild dogs were baring their teeth and growling at half a piece of rotten meat on the side of the road. At this moment, they seemed to have sensed something terrifying. They jumped up at the same time and looked around vigilantly. Then, they didn't even care about the food on the ground and ran away with their tails between their legs. At the same time, the chirping insects seemed to have been silenced and lost their sound. The entire neighborhood fell into a dead silence. Under the moonlight, wisps of black mist suddenly seeped out of the middle 2-story building in the community. The temperature of the surrounding air dropped by 1 or 2 degrees. In the black mist, strange black shadows moved around like ghosts. All the tenants on the 2 floors were asleep, and strange black shadows melded into their bodies in their sleep. Everyone let out a low muffled sound, frowning as they clutched their chests, convulsing. Even so, they still did not wake up. At the same time, 2 black shadows suddenly appeared at the entrance of the community. A tall, burly, brown-haired man was Benjamin. At this moment, he was wearing a heavy gray armor. He held a huge shield that was as tall as a man in his left hand and a one-handed hammer in his right hand. The hammer had sharp spikes on it, making it look very ferocious. The other was a tall and handsome young man with black hair. The black-haired youth was wearing black leather armor and had a large bow on his back. The 2 of them looked at the black mist in the distance, their expressions extremely grave. Benjamin's face turned ugly. This mutated beast has already grown to this extent. This time, we must follow the vine to find the melon and find the person behind the scenes. The black-haired youth said, "I'm fast. I'll go over first. Big Ming, you inform the Lord." Benjamin glanced at the black-haired young man and nodded. "Hong, be careful. With such a mysterious mutation phenomenon, this mutated object's level must be high. Don't be tricked." "Don't worry, I know what I'm doing." The black-haired youth, Lin Hong, bent his legs and stomped on the ground. His body turned into a shadow and in a flash, he appeared on the top of a big tree 100 meters away. In the next instant, his body disappeared and shot towards the building like lightning. Benjamin quickly took out a black phone and pressed a string of numbers. Li Qinghe's projection appeared in the air. "What's going on?" "Sir, we've found signs of mutation here." As he spoke, he looked at the black mist on the 2 floors, and his face turned ugly. "It's not a small scale. Li Qinghe narrowed his eyes slightly and said indifferently, "The address. Black Oak Street, Mingji District. I'll be there immediately." "Good. I'll go first." Boom. Before Benjamin could finish his words, a deafening roar was heard, and flames emerged. Benjamin's face changed, and he quickly looked up in the direction of the higher-ups. The two-story building that was covered in black mist was now spewing out balls of flames. The black mist from before had already dissipated. The high temperature and the flames illuminated Benjamin's somewhat ferocious face. "Damn it! Hong!" He quickly ran towards the tall building. Chapter 75. Deal. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 75. Deal. Translator. Dragon Boat Translation Editor. Dragon Boat Translation. Although his speed wasn't as fast as Lin Hong's, he was still able to cross a few hundred meters in a short time, approaching the tall building. Just as he approached the building, he saw Lin Hong standing to the side, looking up at the flickering flames on the floor with an ugly face. Benjamin heaved a sigh of relief and walked over. "Ah, Hong. How was it? Are you all right?" Lin Hong turned to look at Benjamin, shaking his head. "I'm fine. As soon as I got close, there was an explosion above and the black mist dissipated." Benjamin frowned. No black shadows came out. Lin Hong shook his head with an unsightly expression. Benjamin frowned and said, "I'll go up and take a look." Lin Hong glanced at him. "I'll go with you." "All right. Go." Benjamin shouted in a low voice, and a white light shield appeared on his body. At the same time, a similar white light barrier appeared on Lin Hong's body. The two of them looked at each other and jumped up dozens of meters into the sky, entering the tall building that was burning with flames. Upon entering the building, the high temperature and thick smoke caused Benjamin and Lin Hong to frown, but the high temperature and flames were blocked by the white light barrier. Benjamin waved his hand to dispel the thick smoke in front of him and observed the surroundings. The violent explosion shattered many doors into pieces, and cracks appeared on the walls. The ground was filled with burning wood fragments, crackling in the flames. "If we don't evacuate in time, all the residents in this building will be in danger," Lin Hong said. Benjamin nodded, and then said with an ugly expression, "Not a single trace was left behind. How could the mutated object be so slippery? It had been more than a year and we still couldn't catch it. Every time we appear, it'll leave at once." Lin Hong also frowned. "The problem is that the mutation phenomenon is getting more and more serious. Even a few months ago, this mutated creature didn't have such an ability." Hearing this, Benjamin's heart sank, and he felt great pressure. As the two of them spoke, they entered a room with a broken door. The furniture inside had been completely set on fire, and some of the furniture had been blown to pieces. On the bed in the middle was a charred corpse that was still burning. Both Benjamin and Lin Hong frowned. Benjamin slowly said, "I'm afraid 20 to 30 people have died this time. If we can't find that thing soon, more and more people will die." At this moment, a gust of wind blew past, and the flames trembled violently. Li Qinghe, who was wearing black leather armor, suddenly appeared beside the two. She looked at the charred body on the ground, frowning, and then looked at Benjamin and Lin Hong. "Where are the clues?" The two of them looked at each other and shook their heads. Li Qinghe's frown deepened. She took a deep breath and said, "If the host of the mutated object wants to control such a large area of mutation, the body should also be within a certain range. Search the surrounding area, maybe we'll find something. Also, inform the police to come. Don't let this place become chaotic." "Yes." The two of them nodded. With the strength of both Benjamin and Lin Hong, they could naturally hear the flustered voices coming from upstairs and downstairs, and the lights around them were also turned on. Today was destined to be a sleepless night for the residents of this neighborhood. In the forest, a pitch-black sword light flashed past. A 1.6-meter shoulder tall gray wolf had a sword mark on its body, and blood spurted out. Its body fell to the ground with a wail. Lu Yuan flicked the blood off his sword and looked at the dead bodies of the ancient sea wolves on the ground, exhaling slightly. There were 2 elite ancient sea wolves and over 20 ordinary ancient sea wolves. If an ordinary genetic warrior didn't form a small team, they would probably be surrounded and killed. However, for the current Lu Yuan, this was just a little troublesome. At this moment, Lu Yuan was already deep into the ancient sea oasis and the strength of the fierce beasts was getting stronger and stronger. Looking at the bodies of the ancient sea wolves, the degree of refinement was probably above 80%. Unfortunately, Lu Yuan did not encounter any leader-level fierce beasts. Lu Yuan tidied up the spiritual crystals and materials on the ground and looked around. Let's continue walking inside. He took a step forward and continued to move deeper. 2 days later, Lu Yuan arrived at the edge of the great lake of the ancient sea. Standing by the lake, Lu Yuan looked at the vast lake with a hint of surprise in his eyes. I didn't expect there to be such a big lake in the oasis. Then, a look of annoyance appeared on his face. In the past 2 days, as Lu Yuan continued to venture deeper, he had encountered more than 20 elite fierce beasts. Unfortunately, there was not a single leader-level beast. How long would I have to look for? Lu Yuan looked at the wide lake and felt helpless. The leader is elusive, and there are only a few of them. Even if there is a leader beast, as long as it is found, there will definitely be people to hunt it down. Wait a minute. Lu Yuan suddenly thought of something and was stunned. If other people obtained ores from hunting leader-level ferocious beasts and didn't want to use them but wanted to trade, he had something to trade. Lu Yuan glanced at the pitch-black staff in the war rune space. A leader-level staff was no less precious than an ore. If he used the staff to trade, he might be able to get some ores. Lu Yuan's eyes flickered. He thought about it and felt that there was hope. After leaving the Origin source grounds, he would make a post in the BattleNet's forum or open an online shop. Perhaps he would really be able to exchange for it. Thinking of this method, Lu Yuan's worries dissipated a lot. As for now, he decided to keep looking and see if there were any leader-level ferocious beasts. In the next few days, Lu Yuan continued to look for leader beasts in the core area of the ancient sea oasis. During this time, he did encounter a boss-level beast. It was a huge green fish that was 30 to 40 meters long. It rushed out of the lake, stirring up huge waves. At that time, some of the fierce beasts that were drinking water by the lake fled in a panic. From the aura that the fish was exuding, one could tell that it was an extremely powerful leader-level beast. Its strength was even much stronger than the ancient sea giant crocodile leader that Lu Yuan had killed before. Lu Yuan gave up the idea of hitting it after one glance. It was not realistic at all. He couldn't even use 10% of his power in the lake. Even on land, Lu Yuan would not be able to deal with such a powerful leader beast unless he evolved his black iron body to the leader level. It was a pity that his physical body wasn't strong enough. If he forced himself to evolve, he might just explode and die. Very quickly, 7 days had passed. Lu Yuan had killed a total of 36 elite fierce beasts and obtained 5 pieces of elite equipment and 31 pieces of ordinary equipment. Not only that, Lu Yuan also obtained 2 transcendent genes. Combat skill. Battle roar, combat skill. Poison mist, they were dropped by the ancient sea wolves and ancient sea pythons. To Lu Yuan, these 2 combat skills were not what he wanted. Putting aside the fact that these 2 were only normal quality combat skills, which were not as high quality as his water arrow combat skill. Their effects were not particularly powerful. Lu Yuan planned to sell it when the time came. As for transcendent genes, even if they were of normal quality, they could still be put up for auction. Of course, they could also be sold in the Battle Network store. Aside from the Geno equipment and transcendent genes, he had also gained many materials and spirit crystals. In addition, before he came in the last time, he had not gone to Shui Wang's place to deal with the materials because he was absorbing the ores. Even though his war rune space had become very large, it was still full. Lu Yuan had no choice but to throw away some materials that were not of high value. As for the spirit crystals, other than keeping 10,000 for urgent use, Lu Yuan had given the rest to the evolution cube to absorb. Anyway, his refinement degree had already reached 100%, so he didn't need to continue absorbing spiritual crystals. 7 days passed by quickly. Lu Yuan left the land of origin again. As soon as he appeared in the room, Lu Yuan couldn't wait to sit down in front of the computer. Lu Yuan turned on his computer and opened the Genetic Warrior Network. He thought for a moment, opened the mall module, and registered a store according to the guide. The shop owner's name, There's Help. Shop name. There's Help's little shop. As there were no transaction records, the shop was only the lowest one. Star. Lu Yuan didn't mind. He took out the leader-level staff and posted the information about the ancient sea crocodile staff. After thinking for a while, he also posted the combat skill. Poison Mist and Battle Roar. Not only that, Lu Yuan also put up the information of 2 sets of elite-grade leather armor. The more precious the store's products were, the higher the exposure they would receive. Lu Yuan wanted to speed up the exposure, so he naturally had to put some good things up. For the elite leather armor and transcendent genes, Lu Yuan directly used maple coins. Each set of leather armor cost 1.5 million maple coins, while the poisonous mist combat skill cost 2.5 million and battle roar cost 3 million. According to the price of spirit crystals, the elite combat armor would cost around 10,000. Although the transcendent gene was a normal. Grade 1, it was still a bit more expensive than the elite combat armor. The price was reasonable, ranging from 10,000 to 20,000 spirit crystals. If it was an extremely rare transcendent gene, the price would be even higher. The price given by Lu Yuan was considered the market price and was even slightly lower than the average price. As for the ancient sea crocodile staff, Lu Yuan chose to accept ores as the payment method. This was his main goal. Not only that, but Lu Yuan had even directly posted the first post in his life on the Battle Network. Trading Post. Leader Grade Beginner Warrior Staff for Beginner Ores. Lu Yuan explained the details of the ancient sea giant crocodile staff, and at the same time, he expressed that he would only trade for ores. Chapter 76. Bright Moon in the Palace, News of Ores. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 76. Bright Moon in the Palace, News of Ores. Translator. Dragon Boat Translation Editor. Dragon Boat Translation. Lu Yuan's post had just been posted when someone replied. Dark Knight. Sofa. A leader class Geno weapon. Is that true? The poster actually has such high level equipment. Why haven't I heard of your name before? What's lost can't be returned. Snatching second place. I'm just passing by, and I'm also here to pay my respects to the big boss who can take out a leader level weapon. I'll kneel down to you. Tender fingertips. Poster, can I use real money to buy it? I'm willing to buy it at a premium. The Ivory Clam, is the girl on the 3rd floor this wealthy? She could even afford a chieftain level weapon. Please be my mistress. Shadow Sword. I'm more curious about who the OP is. I've looked at the OP's main page. This is the first time he's posted something. Could he be the spokesperson of some big corporation? In just a few minutes, the number of people who had recovered had reached several dozen. Lu Yuan looked at them one by one and felt a little helpless. None of them had ores to trade. At most, only a few people expressed that they were willing to use real money or crystals to trade. The main reason was that ores were too rare. Lu Yuan also knew that he could not rush it. At this moment, a message came from Lu Yuan's merchant account. Lu Yuan's eyes lit up, revealing a hint of joy. Could it be that someone was willing to buy a staff with raw stones? He quickly opened the message. Meng Lihua replied, "Brother, can you give me an elite-grade leather armor? I'm very pretty and have a great figure. I'm willing to do anything." Lu Yuan was confused. His face darkened. "Damn it, it's more than 10,000 crystals, and I'm giving it to you. Wasn't she trying to cheat money? Not only did she try to cheat me of my money, but she also coveted my body. Isn't this cheating me of my body? Get lost." He sent one word with a dark face and blacklisted the other party. Lu Yuan had just blocked the woman who wanted to cheat him of his money and sex when another message came again. Lu Yuan took a look. This time, the message was slightly more serious. "My friend, the wild leather armor set costs 1.5 million maple coins. Isn't that a little too high? Make it cheaper." Lu Yuan raised his eyebrows. To be fair, the price of Lu Yuan was already a little lower than the market price. After all, the ratio of crystals to maple coins was 1.150 to 200. Even if he calculated according to the lowest ratio, it would only be 10,000 crystals, and if he calculated according to the higher ratio, it would only be 7,500 crystals. It was an 80% refinement level Geno weapon, after all. It was definitely worth the price. He didn't lack money, so he directly replied, "No bargaining." Somewhere in the Red Maple Empire, in a room in a luxurious community. A middle-aged man looked at the 3 words on the optical computer and his face darkened. Beside him was a pretty young girl. She looked at the optical computer expectantly. The middle-aged man saw this and sent another message. "Friend, this is your new shop, and your first business is a good start. For good luck, give me a discount, and I'll come to buy from you again next time. What do you think?" However, the middle-aged man waited for a long time, but the shopkeeper did not continue to reply. The middle-aged man frowned slightly. The pretty girl at the side glanced at the middle-aged man and shook his arm slightly. "Dad! This is the lowest price we've ever seen." The middle-aged man felt helpless and smiled. "Then I'll buy this one. I heard from a friend that it's very important for a genetic warrior to enter the origin source grounds for the first time. Dad will buy you some elite equipment so that you can relax a little after entering." The young girl smiled and hugged her father. "Thank you, Dad." The middle-aged man complained as he paid. "Genetic warriors really make a lot of money. Your father runs a small company and has worked hard for half his life, but I only have around 40 million in assets. I didn't expect that a genetic weapon could be sold for 1.5 million. And he's so cold to me when he's selling things." The pretty girl blinked and patted her chest. "When I get stronger, I'll get an elite Geno weapon. I'll make the same amount of money. I'll support you then." Ha ha ha. The middle-aged man smiled and touched the young girl's hair affectionately. "My good daughter is the best. I believe you. However, they do sell leader-level equipment, so they must be very strong. You have to work hard." "Of course. Don't you know who I am?" Naturally, Lu Yuan saw the message that Youthful Endless had sent him, but he ignored it after a glance. "It's up to you to buy or not." The price wasn't expensive. He wasn't a professional businessman, so he didn't have the time to bargain with others. Not long after, Lu Yuan saw the trading message that popped up from the system. The previous player, Youthful Endless, had placed an order for the leather armor. Lu Yuan raised his brows in surprise. "I didn't expect you to really buy it." At this moment, Endless Years sent another message. "Friend, do you have any elite-grade weapons? A longbow or a dagger would be best." Lu Yuan was stunned. Originally, he had only sent 2 elite armed equipment to make up the numbers, and had not thought of selling many. If possible, Lu Yuan would rather sell the elite-level equipment for crystals. However, he thought that this was his first business deal and his first customer. So be it. He thought for a moment and sent a message. There's a pair of daggers. Lu Yuan had obtained a lot of equipment in the ancient sea oasis, and one of them was a pair of short swords dropped by the ancient sea wolf. Wolf Fang short sword, mainly increases agility, secondary increases strength. Lu Yuan sent the message over and set the price at 1.5 million as well. The first thing that youthful Endless said was that he wanted to buy it. After all, the price of a weapon was generally more expensive than an armor. The price Lu Yuan gave was considered quite low. Hence, Lu Yuan made another deal. Lu Yuan was able to see the express delivery address he had left behind after youthful Endless had made the payment. Lu Yuan needed to send the 2 Geno armaments over. As for logistics, the Genetic Warrior Association had a department that specialized in this area. Lu Yuan could request for shipping at the Battle Network store. The Genetic Warrior Association would send someone to verify the authenticity of the items and send them out. Lu Yuan remembered that he still had to go out later to sell a large portion of the materials in the War Rune space, so he made an appointment for a delivery at 4 in the afternoon. After that, Lu Yuan left home and went to the Mad Wolf Material Store. 9 Lakes Business District, Mad Wolf Material Store. Lu Yuan pushed the door open and walked in. Shui Wang was sitting on a chair, looking at the screen at the side. On the screen was a beautiful host reporting the news. Last night, there was an explosion in Mingji District, Black Oak Street, South City District. According to our understanding, it was caused by a gas leak caused by the careless residents. The explosion killed 32 residents. When Lu Yuan heard the broadcast, he was stunned. Black Oak Street didn't seem to be too far from his house. A gas explosion. And so many people died. Was it that bad? Fortunately, it was not his house. He turned around and saw Shui Wang staring at the screen. He could not help but laugh. What a rare sight, old Shui. Not only are you not playing games, but you're also watching the news. You've changed. Shui Wang returned to his senses and turned to look at Lu Yuan. He smiled and said, "Why didn't you come over yesterday? I thought you'd found a new one and didn't want me anymore." Hearing this, Lu Yuan felt a chill. Stop, stop, stop. Don't say such disgusting things. I had something to do yesterday. I have. Woof woof woof. Did I? Very much. Lu Yuan was already used to Shui Wang barking from time to time. He nodded expressionlessly. By the way, your genes haven't been fully integrated yet. How can it be so simple? I am not a monster like you. How many good things are there this time? Lu Yuan smiled and took out a large pile of materials. Shui Wang was shocked. Oh my God, you didn't come yesterday and you've already accumulated so much. I'll check first. Shui Wang started to count and soon, his eyes widened. There are actually 67 elite-grade materials here. Where did you go to kill so many elite beasts? Lu Yuan smiled. I'll kill them if I encounter them. Shui Wang was speechless. He could only give Lu Yuan a thumbs up. Awesome. I have nothing to say. How much is it? There are too many materials this time, a total of 6.94 million. I'll transfer it to you. Lu Yuan nodded. This was comparable to him selling several elite equipment. Not bad. If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave. Lu Yuan waved his hand and planned to leave. Wait. Shui Wang suddenly called out to Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan was stunned and turned to look at Shui Wang. What's wrong? Shui Wang hesitated for a moment before he said, You live in the slums, right? Yes, the Black Oak Street in the news is not far from my house. Shui Wang said, have many people died on your side recently? It felt a little strange. If you can, it's best to move to another place. Lu Yuan was stunned when he heard this. He looked at the light screen. This matter should have nothing to do with that black shadow, right? However, it was indeed time to move. He wondered how big sister Qinghe was doing. Lu Yuan intended to have a good talk with her. He actually didn't have any problems with it. After all, he wasn't weak, and he was about to break through to the first rank. When he broke through to the first rank, he would be able to evolve his black iron body and inscribe another transcendent gene. His strength would increase by several times. He was worried about Li Qinghe. After all, Li Qinghe was just an ordinary person. At first, Lu Yuan didn't think there was any problem. Now that the black shadow seemed to be getting more and more troublesome, it was better to leave as soon as possible. I know. I'll go and look at the houses then. That's good. Shui Wang smiled. It's best if you can find someone close to me. We can go get high together. Hi my ass, I'm not. Lu Yuan rolled his eyes and left the Mad Wolf material store. Shui Wang looked at the closed door, and his smile gradually disappeared. He stared at the light screen in a daze, and no one knew what he was thinking. After leaving the Mad Wolf material store, Lu Yuan walked towards the slums. On the way, he took out his phone and opened the battle network to see if anyone wanted to buy his staff. He looked at the market and saw another Geno weapon and skill had been. People had messaged about the staff too. Lu Yuan blacklisted all the women who wanted to cheat him of his staff, just like the woman who wanted to cheat him of his money and sex. His heart was even more evil than the one who had cheated him of his elite equipment. He actually wanted to cheat him of his leader.class equipment. It was ridiculous. Some planned to buy it with crystals or trade it with leader.level weapons. Unfortunately, Lu Yuan did not lack leader equipment or spiritual crystals. He only wanted ores. He had rejected them all. Lu Yuan clicked on the trading post that he had sent earlier. There were already thousands of replies. Lu Yuan browsed through the replies one by one. Most of them were fools who wanted to watch the show, and some wanted to buy it with spiritual crystals. Bone.deep gentleness. The staff in this trading post is exactly the same as the leader staff I saw in the merchant shop. The item being requested for trade is also ore. Is it sold by the same boss? Lu Yuan saw this message and raised his eyebrows. He didn't expect that someone would actually find out about this. However, it did not matter to Lu Yuan. He just wanted more exposure. Lu Yuan continued to browse. Lu Yuan was a little disappointed that no one was willing to trade for ores. Just as he was about to finish reading the replies, Lu Yuan saw a post. His eyes lit up and he revealed a trace of surprise. Bright moon in the palace, I have a beginner ore. How do we trade? Chapter 77. The deal is completed. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 77. The deal is completed. Translator. Dragon Boat Translation Editor. Dragon Boat Translation. He had finally met someone with a raw gemstone. Lu Yuan excitedly typed with both hands instead of one. He tapped on Bright Moon in the palace's profile picture and started to chat privately. I have a shop where you can trade. It's called There's Help's Little Shop. You can place your order there. With the Genetic Warrior Association as a guarantor, there is no need to worry about both parties breaking the contract. What do you think? Lu Yuan walked while waiting for Bright Moon in the palace to reply. After waiting for more than 10 minutes, Lu Yuan thought that the other party had regretted it. Then, Bright Moon in the palace sent a message. Sure, I'll place the order. Lu Yuan immediately revealed an excited smile. The third ore was in his hands. Not long after, an order message appeared in Lu Yuan's online store. Lu Yuan opened it and saw that it was an order for a magic staff. Next, as long as the bright moon in the palace sent the ore over, Lu Yuan could send the staff over after confirming it. Regarding bartering, the Genetic Warrior Association had its own procedures. Generally, one party would send the item to the other party, and after the other party received the item, he would send the item back. Once both parties confirmed it, the transaction would be completed. Of course, during this process, the Genetic Warrior Association would send professionals to check the authenticity of the items. After the item was delivered to the trader, the Genetic Warrior Association would no longer care about it as long as the transaction was confirmed. After the order was confirmed, Lu Yuan returned to his residence in a good mood. Lu Yuan's phone rang as soon as he got home. He glanced at his phone and picked up the call. "Hello," he said. "Hello, we're from the Genetic Warrior Association. Are you home now?" Lu Yuan remembered that he had asked for a delivery o'clock. He smiled and said, "Yes, I am." "Alright, we'll be there in about half an hour." "Alright," he said. Lu Yuan hung up the phone and realized that it was already 3:30. He returned to his room and found the last combat technique in his online store. Battle Roar was also sold. Up until now, all the items that Lu Yuan had put up on the shelves had been sold out. It only took a few hours. This was normal. After all, Lu Yuan's online price was lower than the average online store. Naturally, there were many people who wanted to buy it. After all, it was cheap and good quality. Who wouldn't like it? The transaction of the ore had been completed, so Lu Yuan naturally would not continue to put items on the shelves. He would just leave this shop there and not care about it. He opened up the BattleNet's forum section and began to check the various posts. He was about to break through to the first rank, and it was time to make preparations. Time passed, and it was soon 4 o'clock. Someone knocked on the door. Lu Yuan walked out of his room and opened the door. There were two middle-aged men in black uniforms outside the door. The two men were stunned when they saw Lu Yuan's young face. One of the men with short brown hair said, "Hello, are you Mr. Lu?" "Yes." Lu Yuan smiled and nodded. "I am Lu Yuan." "Hello, Mr. Lu. I'll pick up the delivery." Lu Yuan took out the items he had sold before. 2 transcendent genes and 3 elite equipment. After seeing these things, the two men both took another look at Lu Yuan. The brown-haired man took the items and looked through them one by one. He smiled. "The items are checked properly. We will prepare the packaging. Are you paying for the delivery fee?" "Yes," Lu Yuan smiled and nodded. "Let me check the delivery address, please wait a moment. The total is 50,000 maple dollars." It was Lu Yuan's first time sending a package. When he heard that the delivery fee was 50,000, he was a little surprised. This was a little expensive. However, Lu Yuan could understand. The wilderness was filled with ferocious beasts, and ordinary people had no way of leaving the city. Those who could move between cities were either genetic warriors or elites of society. Take the logistics of the Genetic Warrior Association as an example. All delivery men were genetic warriors. If one wanted a genetic warrior to deliver goods, the logistics cost would naturally not be low. This delivery fee of tens of thousands was actually considered normal. After Lu Yuan paid the delivery fee, the brown-haired man smiled and said, "Then we'll be leaving first. These packages will probably arrive tomorrow." Lu Yuan nodded. "All right. Thank you." Lu Yuan closed the door and the two deliverers looked at each other. The black-haired deliverer at the side had a strange expression. A genetic warrior who can take out so many elite items is actually living in such a place. "I really didn't expect this." The brown-haired man laughed, who knows what he's thinking. However, Lu Yuan is so young and he already has so many elite-grade items. I wonder if he obtained them by himself. The black-haired man nodded. Yes. If he obtained it himself, that would be amazing. I've taken a look. This leather armor was dropped by the ancient sea wolf in Sandstone City. It has a tempering degree of more than 80%. Only elite ancient sea wolves with 80% or more of a tempering rate would drop that. To be able to kill such a powerful beast at such a young age, his future is probably boundless. The brown-haired man nodded in agreement. He glanced at the tightly shut door. This has nothing to do with us. Let's go. There are still a few more to take in. The two of them left as they spoke. Lu Yuan returned to his room after he mailed everything. He recalled what Shui Wang had told him previously. The slums seemed to be in turmoil. Lu Yuan thought for a moment and sent a message to Li Qinghe. Big sister Qinghe, are you home? For the past 2 days, Li Qinghe had not brought breakfast for Lu Yuan. It was Lu Yuan who said that it was already noon when he came out of the land of origin, so he did not need to bring breakfast. Lu Yuan did not know if Li Qinghe had returned home. Lu Yuan waited for a while, but Li Qinghe did not reply. He raised his eyebrows, went to the opposite room, and knocked on the door. Big sister Qinghe. Are you home? Lu Yuan waited for a while, but there was still no response. He's not here. Lu Yuan thought for a while and decided to wait for Li Qinghe's reply. After returning to his room, Lu Yuan did not absorb the remaining raw stone. It was getting late and it would probably take night to finish absorbing this raw stone. Lu Yuan did not want to cultivate at night as he was a little worried that the black shadow would appear again out of nowhere. He sat on the bed and continued to sense the black steel strength. During this period of time, Lu Yuan had been fighting with powerful elite fierce beasts, and his proficiency in black steel strength was also constantly improving. Now that he had mastered the technique of using his core strength group and large strength group at the same time, he began to explore the technique of using all his strength group at the same time. He could now double his strength steadily, and his combat strength had improved. If he could increase his black steel force to the 3rd level and double his strength, he would be able to kill some of the leaders with his own strength. If he could triple it, it would be equivalent to having a leader-level combat skill, which would also greatly improve Lu Yuan's strength. Coupled with various genetic agents, Lu Yuan felt that he could kill most of the leaders. An elite-level warrior killing a leader beast alone was an unbelievable thing. However, it was still quite difficult for him to find the leader alone. In addition, the black steel force had already reached this level, so it was much more difficult to continue improving it. Lu Yuan did not even need to spend a few days to break through to the 3rd stage. Naturally, he felt that the earlier he obtained the ore, the better. Now that he could obtain the 3rd ore through the trade, it was naturally for the best. As he cultivated the black steel force, night had come without him knowing. Lu Yuan entered the land of origin. His body appeared beside the great ancient sea lake. Lu Yuan looked around and pondered for a moment. Then, he began to move towards the edge of the ancient sea oasis. He planned to make a trip back to Sandstone City. He didn't need spiritual crystals anymore, and he didn't need to hunt for chief fierce beasts. As long as he absorbed the ores, he would be able to break through. Absorbing ores would be more convenient in Sandstone City than in the real world. The distance from the Great Lake of the Ancient Sea to the edge of the Ancient Sea Oasis was more than 100 kilometers, and there were many ferocious beasts in the area. Even with Lu Yuan's strength, it took him more than 3 days to reach the edge of the Ancient Sea Oasis. After that, Lu Yuan spent more than 2 days to return to Sandstone City from the Ancient Sea Oasis. After passing through the inspection of the 2 constructs at the city gate, Lu Yuan entered the city. Looking at the genetic warriors on the streets, Lu Yuan could not help but smile. In the wilderness, he was always tense. In the city, Lu Yuan could finally relax. He went to the residential area and rented a C-class single suite. After returning to the suite, Lu Yuan took out the ore and began to absorb it. The force entered Lu Yuan's body and broke through the gene lock. Before the force was exhausted, Lu Yuan's second black chain was broken into pieces, turning into wisps of black smoke and dissipating. The white mist at the top of the gene chain dispersed a little and Lu Yuan gradually saw the gene chain above. Lu Yuan looked at the last black chain and smiled. Just a little bit more. Chapter 78. Heading towards Rank 1. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 78. Heading towards Rank 1. Translator. Dragon Boat Translation Editor. Dragon Boat Translation. The light door in the white mist was almost completely repaired after the ore was fully absorbed. Taking advantage of the last bit of time, Lu Yuan left the suite and went to the auction house. He planned to put some of his elite Geno weapons up for auction. Lu Yuan entered the side door of the auction house. Inside was a hall of about 200 square meters. There were 8 4-meter tall constructs standing on both sides of the hall, and there were a few rows of seats in the center. At this moment, a few genetic warriors were seated and waiting. There was another door on the other side of the hall, and a construct about 2 meters tall stood by the door. Lu Yuan walked over, and the construct looked at Lu Yuan and said, "Human, do you want to auction an item?" "Yes," Lu Yuan nodded. "Take this plate and wait in the hall." Lu Yuan took a light yellow metal card from the construct, with the number 021 engraved on it. Lu Yuan sat in his seat and looked around. Several genetic warriors sitting around him were also sizing Lu Yuan up. Lu Yuan retracted his gaze and waited quietly. Soon, a human walked out of the passage. He handed a sign to the construct, and the construct said, "Number 045. A dog-headed man who was sitting in the hall stood up and entered the passage. As time passed, one after another, genetic warriors came out and went in. Not long after, a humanoid cat walked out and handed the metal plate to the construct. "Number 021, the construct said. Lu Yuan stood up and walked towards the passage. "Please enter room 021 and return the metal plate to me when you come out," the construct said. Lu Yuan nodded and walked into the passage. On both sides of the passage were rooms. The door of the room was closed, so she couldn't hear anything inside. The numbers started from 001 and kept counting. Lu Yuan walked in and soon came to a fork in the road. Fortunately, there was a sign on the side of the fork. Lu Yuan walked towards the path from 020 to 050. After 2 steps, he saw a room with an open door. It was number 021. Lu Yuan walked in. It was a small room of about 10 square meters. There were no windows in the room and it was very enclosed. There was a table in the middle of the room, and a construct was sitting behind the table. Lu Yuan closed the door and the construct said, "Human, show me your metal plate." Lu Yuan handed the metal plate to him, and the construct nodded. "Take out the item you want to auction, human." Lu Yuan then took out the items for auction one by one. In Lu Yuan's original plan, he had a leader-level staff to auction, but unfortunately, his plans could not keep up with the changes. He had exchanged his staff for an ore. Lu Yuan only had 8 elite Geno weapons and the horn and skin of the ancient sea crocodile leader. Lu Yuan handed the items to the construct one by one. The construct picked up an elite-grade spear. Lu Yuan remembered that this was the cat girl's meal money, which she had taken from a hound-head man. An elite-grade spear with a 75% refinement rate. The recommended starting price is 7,000 crystals. Do you wish to change the starting price? There's no need to modify it, Lu Yuan shook his head. The elite spear in the construct's hand disappeared, and he picked up another giant black shield. 77% tempered elite shield. Recommended starting price. 7,500 crystals. Do you wish to change the starting price? No, Lu Yuan shook his head. I won't change it. After that, the construct looked through all the items for auction and gave the starting price. The starting price of the elite equipment ranged from 50,000 to 10,000. The starting price of the 2-liter level materials was slightly higher. The horn starting price reached 12,000 and the leather reached 13500. Every time the construct asked Lu Yuan if he wanted to change the starting price. Lu Yuan naturally did not change it. The process of auctioning was very fast, and it ended not long after. After Lu Yuan put up all the items for auction, he left the small room. After exiting the passage, Lu Yuan returned the metal card to the construct at the side of the passage, and the construct quickly called out number 021. Lu Yuan, on the other hand, left the auction house under the gazes of several genetic warriors in the hall. After leaving the auction house, the light door in Lu Yuan's mind was almost repaired. After a while, when the light door was completely repaired, Lu Yuan left the land of origin. It was noon the next day when he returned to the real world. Lu Yuan stretched lazily and revealed a smile. After the items that were put up for auction were sold, Lu Yuan could earn about 100,000 spiritual crystals. He had made a fortune. He left the room and planned to go to the Wild Wolf material store to deal with the materials. At this moment, Lu Yuan's phone rang. He opened his phone and saw that it was a call from the courier. "Hello, how are you?" "Hello, are you Mr. Lu?" "Yes, I am." "Are you at home now?" "I'm here, your parcel will be delivered immediately. We'll deliver it to your door now and it'll arrive in about an hour." Lu Yuan was stunned. Express delivery. Soon, he had a look of realization. He only had the raw stones that he had traded yesterday. It seemed that the ore stone had arrived. How could he be so fast? Lu Yuan was a little surprised. "Okay, I'll wait for you at home." Lu Yuan had to change his schedule and return to his room to wait for the delivery. Just as he sat down at the desk, Lu Yuan suddenly remembered the message he had sent to Li Qinghe yesterday. He took a look at his communicator, but Li Qinghe didn't reply. Lu Yuan frowned slightly. Could he be busy? Lu Yuan thought for a moment, then went to Li Qinghe's room and knocked on the door. There was still no movement. Lu Yuan thought for a moment and did not break in. Perhaps big sister Qinghe was still busy, so he decided to wait a little longer. He returned to his room and began to browse the battle network aimlessly. Suddenly, Lu Yuan remembered that he was about to break through to the first-rank warrior. At that time, he would be able to inscribe new transcendent genes. He would have to choose his future development path. Currently, Lu Yuan only had one elite-grade water arrow gene. To Lu Yuan, who had the evolution cube, the quality of the genes was not important. It could evolve anyway. What he needed was a transcendent genes characteristic, a characteristic that was suitable for him. Based on Lu Yuan's plan, it would be best if he could inscribe a transcendent gene that could increase speed. At that time, his close combat ability would be polished to an all-rounded level, almost perfect. If he could inscribe water arrows, he could build himself into a water arrow cannon platform with extremely strong defense. This direction was not bad. However, there were many types of transcendent genes. Perhaps there was a more suitable one. Since he had nothing to do, he might as well take a look at transcendent genes. Lu Yuan opened the battle network and selected the transcendent gene classification. He then started to browse through it casually. Combat skill. Heavy strike, normal-grade transcendent gene, 3.5 million. Lu Yuan opened the introduction. This was an explosive type offensive combat technique. By consuming spiritual energy, it could burst out with more power. This effect was similar to Lu Yuan's Black Steel Force. The only difference was that body technique consumed physical strength, and the strength depended on the physical strength. Combat skills consumed spiritual energy, but they could also be combined with physical strength. Obviously, the fourfold increase in Black Steel Force was much stronger than Heavy Strike. Even the 2 transcendent genes that Lu Yuan had sold yesterday were better than this. It actually cost 3.5 million. This person must be crazy for money. Lu Yuan shook his head and checked the other transcendent genes. On the battle network, they were basically all ordinary transcendent genes. After all, there was a chance of obtaining normal-grade transcendent genes as long as one killed an elite beast. The difficulty of obtaining them wasn't too high, so the supply would be high. The vast majority of genetic warriors would also inscribe ordinary-grade genes as their first gene. There were all sorts of transcendent genes. There were more of the defense-style tortoiseshell technique, rough tree bark, petrified skin, shield defense, and so on, and offense-style fury strike, power strike, and 2-hit combo. There were also support-type skills like twining wooden beard, quagmire, and slow. Lu Yuan's gaze swept over them. He was not particularly satisfied with these transcendent genes. Even if there were 1 or 2 excellent-grade transcendent genes, they were all very ordinary combat techniques. To Lu Yuan, they were dispensable. At this moment, he paused in his browsing as he looked at a transcendent gene. Combat skill. Natural recovery. This was an ordinary-grade transcendent gene. What surprised Lu Yuan was that this was actually a healing-type transcendent gene. Lu Yuan suddenly thought of a problem. His current defensive ability was already extremely powerful. If one wanted to kill him in an instant, they would have to be a lot stronger than him. If he obtained a healing combat skill, did it mean that he could slowly recover as long as he was not killed in a short period of time? Then, he could turn the tables and torture his opponents. To other genetic warriors, this model was not very realistic. After all, the consumption of spiritual energy was a big problem. However, to Lu Yuan, this was not a problem at all. As long as he had spiritual crystals, his spiritual power would be limitless. Super defense and healing ability, wasn't this an immortal body? If he could upgrade this healing combat technique and his current black iron body to the chieftain rank, he would most likely be able to fight those of higher ranks. Moreover, compared to increasing speed, healing abilities had a wider range of applications. After all, not all situations were suitable for high-speed combat. The path of natural recovery seemed to be feasible. Chapter 79. Only Son. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 79. Only Son. Translator. Dragon Boat Translation Editor. Dragon Boat Translation. Lu Yuan opened the page of the Transcendent Gene. The Transcendent Gene was priced at 12 million. Lu Yuan raised his eyebrows slightly at the high price, but he was not particularly surprised. Transcendent genes were different from transcendent genes. An ordinary transcendent gene might be worth 2 to 3 million, but some rare and precious ordinary-grade transcendent genes could even be compared to the price of an elite-grade transcendent gene. This was the case for healing-type transcendent genes. Genetic warriors with healing genes were extremely popular in the land of origin. Lu Yuan had about 50 million yuan now, so he could still afford 12 million yuan. He didn't haggle with the shopkeeper and directly chose to pay. What made Lu Yuan happy was that the shop owner seemed to be in Shili City, so the gene would be sent over very quickly. Lu Yuan was already looking forward to the effect of inscribing this gene. At this moment, someone knocked on the door. Lu Yuan was taken aback, and then he smiled in surprise. The raw stone should be here. He walked over to open the door. The 2 deliverymen from yesterday were standing at the door. After the 2 deliverymen saw Lu Yuan, they smiled. The man with short brown hair said, "Hello, Mr. Lu. We're here to deliver something." As he spoke, he took out a small black metal box. After opening the metal box, a piece of white jade was reflected in Lu Yuan's eyes. "Mr. Lu, although our association has already checked it, according to the usual practice, you still have to check it yourself. If there are no problems, you can sign the receipt." "All right," he said. Lu Yuan picked up the white jade and the information of the ore stone appeared in his mind. He revealed a smile. It's the ore stone, no problem. If there's no problem, please sign here on the battle network. Lu Yuan nodded, opened the battle network, and signed for the ore stone express delivery on the logistics page. The middle-aged man also received the message. The express delivery has been delivered. We'll be leaving now. Lu Yuan smiled. Thank you for your hard work. Goodbye. Lu Yuan closed the door. Two middle-aged men stood at the door and looked at each other again. The brown-haired man exclaimed, beginner or stones. This Lu Yuan is already preparing to break through. The black-haired man was also surprised. Judging from his young age, he might not have taken the college entrance exam yet. If he can break through before the college entrance exam, he should be able to get into one of the top 10 genetic warrior academies, right? TSK, that's really amazing. Yes, if I had such strength back then, why would I need to be a courier? The two of them couldn't help but sigh and smile. After Lu Yuan received the package, he couldn't wait to return to his room. He had originally planned to absorb the ore stones directly, but after some thought, he decided that it was better to absorb them in the land of origin and break through. After all, he would have more time, and the residential area would be protected by the constructs, which would be safer. He could also evolve his genes. At the same time, Lu Yuan planned to see if he could get the natural recovery gene today. If he could make it, he could carve it together and evolve at the same time. In order to evolve his genes, Lu Yuan had spent a lot of spirit crystals on the evolution cube. As for now, Lu Yuan planned to go to the Mad Wolf material store and sell the materials. He went out of the door and walked out of the community and found that there seemed to be fewer pedestrians on the street than before. Lu Yuan looked at the deserted streets around him and was a little puzzled. However, he didn't pay much attention to it. He left the slums and headed toward the Nine Lakes business circle. Not long after, he arrived at the Mad Wolf material store. As soon as he entered the door, Lu Yuan saw Xue Wang staring at the screen, which was still playing the news. Last night, there were 2 more explosions in the southern city district. The death toll reached 66 people. The official investigation results are still a gas leak. However, some people believe that this is a lie by the consul. They were attacked by unknown force. For this reason, they hope that the consul can give a reasonable explanation. Lu Yuan looked at the screen in surprise. The beautiful host reported smoothly, and the content surprised Lu Yuan. There was another gas explosion yesterday. Is that true? 2 days in a row. No wonder he felt that the atmosphere on the street was not right today. So it was because of this. Xue Wang glanced at Lu Yuan and said, "Old Lu, don't tell me you really think it's a gas leak." The results of the official investigation could only fool children. This was something that many genetic warriors could do. I'm sure there's something going on over there, and I'm afraid it's quite serious. What? Lu Yuan was stunned. It's not a gas leak. He was shocked. If there was a big problem in the slums, it should be the Black Shadow. Such a huge commotion, could it be caused by that Black Shadow? Lu Yuan's heart felt heavy. Then, Lu Yuan recalled that Li Qinghe had yet to reply to his message. Could it be that something had happened? Lu Yuan frowned, feeling uneasy. Seeing Lu Yuan's ugly expression, Xue Wang did not say anything more. Old Lu, do you want to sell the materials? Benov calm. Lu Yuan came back to his senses and nodded. Yes. He took out all kinds of materials, but his mind was preoccupied with Li Qinghe's matter. He took out his phone to take a look, but Li Qinghe still had not replied to his message. Let's go look for it later. However, he didn't know much about Big Sister Qinghe's job. He only knew that it seemed to be that kind of job. He didn't even know where the workplace was. Then, Lu Yuan thought of Benjamin. Li Qinghe was in contact with Francis. If he went to ask Francis, perhaps he could get something out of him. While Lu Yuan was thinking, Shui Wang had already finished counting the materials. A total of 3.11 million. Old Lu, the harvest this time isn't too good. Lu Yuan returned to his senses and smiled. I went back to the city and didn't deliberately hunt fierce beasts. You went back to the city. No wonder. Shui Wang nodded. He fiddled with his phone. Alright, I've already transferred the money to you, alright, then I'll take my leave. Lu Yuan nodded and turned to leave. Shui Wang looked at Lu Yuan's back and thought for a while before saying, remember to move out soon. Oh. Lu Yuan paused and smiled. I know. Seeing Lu Yuan leave, Shui Wang looked at the screen. The news was still broadcasting. The scene behind the host showed the ruins after the explosion. Shui Wang stood up and walked 2 rounds around the shop before sighing. He walked to the door, closed it and put up a closed sign. After returning to the store, he went through the back door and entered the living room. The living room was a little bigger than the storefront outside, with a dining table and sofa. At this moment, there were still some unfinished dishes on the table. Shui Wang sank into the sofa and looked up at the ceiling. He seemed to be in a daze. After a moment of silence, Shui Wang took out his phone and dialed a number that he had not called for a few years. Do. The phone rang for a while before it was connected. The other party did not speak, and Shui Wang did not speak either. After a moment of silence, Shui Wang said, You're the one behind the incident in the southern city district, right? There was only the sound of breathing on the other side, and not long after, a voice came, What are you talking about? Shui Wang stood up abruptly and said emotionally, Don't play dumb with me. Other than you, who else could do such a thing? Your blood has always been cold. The voice on the other side remained calm. Is that all you want to say? If there's nothing else, I'm hanging up. By the way, you haven't left Shili City yet. You don't have to worry about that. You don't need to worry about my life and death. Shui Wang's expression was cold. He then revealed a mocking smile. What's wrong? Do you think I disobeyed your orders? You can just kill me like you killed my mother. Didn't you kill my mother because she disobeyed your orders? The other side was silent for a moment before slowly saying, You're different from your mother. You're my only son. Shui Wang sneered, Just you wait. I risked my life to inscribe the silver wolf gene so that I can take revenge on you. After that, he hung up the phone. After hanging up the phone, Shui Wang collapsed on the sofa. He looked at the ceiling and sighed. When Lu Yuan returned to the slums, he was planning to go to Daming Martial Arts School to look for Franz and ask for news about Li Qinghe. At this moment, Lu Yuan's phone vibrated. He unlocked his phone and saw that it was a message from Li Qinghe. Li Qinghe. Brother Yuan, I'm sorry. I was a little busy yesterday. I just had some free time now. Why are you looking for me all of a sudden? What's the matter? When Lu Yuan saw Li Qinghe's reply, he immediately heaved a sigh of relief, and his uneasiness disappeared. He smiled and replied. Are you at home now? We'll talk face to face when I get back. Li Qinghe. I just got home. We'll talk later. I'll be home immediately, Lu Yuan replied. Lu Yuan changed his direction and headed back home. Just as he was walking on the road, his phone rang again. Lu Yuan took out his phone and saw that it was another call from the courier. Lu Yuan picked up the phone. Is this Mr. Lu? Yes, hello, your express delivery is about to be delivered. Are you at home now? Lu Yuan's heart was filled with joy. The transcendent gene that he had just bought was finally in his hands. Chapter 80. Breakthrough, Evolution. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 80. Breakthrough, Evolution Translator. Dragon Boat Translation Editor. Dragon Boat Translation. I'm at home, alright, Mr. Lu. The delivery will arrive in about an hour. After Lu Yuan hung up the phone, he went home in a cheerful mood. However, looking at the cold streets on the road, Lu Yuan thought of the news he had seen before and his mood became heavy again. When he got home, Lu Yuan knocked on Li Qinghe's door. Soon, Li Qinghe opened the door and walked out. She was wearing a loose white nightdress, no makeup on her delicate face, and her black hair fell over her shoulders. She looked quite pretty. Little brother Yuan, you're back. Why are you in such a hurry to find me? Li Qinghe said with a smile. Lu Yuan chuckled. I do have something to discuss with you. There have been quite a few gas explosions in our area over the past 2 days. Sister Qinghe, do you know about this? Li Qinghe paused and nodded. What's wrong? Although the consul said it was an accident, I think it might be due to that black shadow. Now that this area is a little dangerous, I think it's best for us to move out immediately. I'm actually fine. I'm just worried that you'll be in danger. After all, you're just an ordinary person, big sister Qinghe. Li Qinghe's eyes flickered. Looking at Lu Yuan's serious face, she was silent for a moment, then smiled and said, Brother Yuan, do you have the money to move out now? Lu Yuan grinned, feeling a little proud. Big sister Qinghe, don't look down on me. I have more than 10 million in my savings right now. It's enough for us to move. More than 10 million. Li Qinghe's eyes widened slightly, and her voice rose a few octaves. She looked very surprised. It wasn't just his expression. Li Qinghe was also extremely surprised. Didn't little brother Yuan just awaken for a month? How did he manage to save up so much money in such a short time? Brother Yuan, she couldn't help but ask, how did you earn so much money? Lu Yuan smiled. We genetic warriors hunt berserk beasts in the land of origin. The materials of berserk beasts can be sold for money. The price is not cheap, so it's quite profitable. Sister Qinghe, you're not a genetic warrior, so you might not know this. And I'm a genius, so my strength increased very quickly. The beasts I killed were also very strong, so the materials I got were more valuable. A look of admiration appeared on Li Qinghe's face. Brother Yuan is a genius. You're really too amazing. Lu Yuan could not help but smile when he heard the praise from the person close to him. That's why you can rest assured, elder sister Qinghe. The money to move out won't be a problem at all. It won't even be a problem for me to support you. Li Qinghe looked at the smiling Lu Yuan and also narrowed his eyes. A hint of a smile appeared on his face, and a hint of gentleness flashed in his eyes. She thought for a moment and said, if that's the case, why don't we find a place to rent, and then we'll move out? Lu Yuan nodded and thought for a while. I have a delivery to deliver later today, and I have to go to the land of origin tonight. Let's go rent a house together tomorrow morning. Also, it's very dangerous outside right now, so don't go out, Sister Qinghe. Little brother Yuan is right. I'll stay at home then. Let's go look for houses together tomorrow. Li Qinghe said with a smile, but in her heart, she thought that since Lu Yuan was going back to the land of origin at night, Lu Yuan wouldn't know even if she went out. Li Qinghe yawned and said, Big sister, I'm still a little tired. I'll sleep a little longer. Lu Yuan nodded and let Li Qinghe go to sleep. Seeing Li Qinghe close the door, Lu Yuan felt a weight lifted off his chest. Li Qinghe didn't go out, so he was slightly more at ease. However, that black shadow appeared and disappeared unpredictably, so Lu Yuan still felt that it was not very safe. I'll move out tomorrow. Lu Yuan had already made up his mind. Lu Yuan returned to his room and began to check the property resources to prepare for tomorrow's move. At the same time, he was waiting for the delivery. Soon, someone knocked on the door. Lu Yuanxing rushed to open the door. The two delivery men were still outside. The brown-haired man smiled. "Mr. Lu, we meet again so soon." Lu Yuan also smiled. "That's right. It's indeed quite fast. This is your express delivery." The brown-haired man took out a metal box from the battle net and opened it. There was a white ball of light inside. Within the ball of light, there were threads intertwining and spinning. It was the transcendent gene. Lu Yuan picked up the ball of light and confirmed that it was a natural reply through the message. Then, he confirmed that he had received the item. After bidding farewell to the two delivery men, Lu Yuan returned to his room. He looked at the transcendent gene in his hand, feeling a little excited. It was a pity that he had yet to break through. He could only suppress the excitement in his heart and put this transcendent gene into his war rune space. At 10 o'clock in the evening, the door of light in the white fog was repaired. Lu Yuan entered the land of origin immediately. His body appeared outside the auction house. Lu Yuan glanced at the auction house, thought for a moment, and went in first to get combat skill. Water arrow was put up for auction. An elite.grade transcendent gene was even more valuable than a leader.grade combat armor. The starting price was set at 98,000 crystals. This was only the starting price. The final price would definitely be over 100,000 spiritual crystals. After auctioning the elite gene, Lu Yuan went to rent a C-class suite. After entering the room, Lu Yuan sat cross-legged on the bed and took out the third raw stone. He looked at the white jade in his hand, calmed down, and slowly exhaled. "Let's start," he closed his eyes and began to absorb the last raw stone. The force merged into Lu Yuan's body, passed through the white mist, and began to attack the last layer of chains. Boom! 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 With the impact, the white mist surged and the gene strands were constantly shaking. Lu Yuan felt a tingling sensation in his body. Not long after, a crisp sound rang out, and fine cracks began to appear on the black chains. Lu Yuan did not stop attacking. Soon, the crack became wider and wider. Finally, the entire chain was broken. As the last chain was broken, the white mist space around the gene strands surged violently and quickly dissipated. Above the first gene chain, the second gene chain was completely exposed. Compared to the first genetic chain, the second genetic chain looked very dim. After all, this genetic chain had not started to be tempered yet. Even so, Lu Yuan could be considered to have broken through to level 1. With the breakthrough, waves of power emerged from the depths of Lu Yuan's body. His body and spirit seemed to have changed slightly. This was the sublimation of the essence of genes. Every time a genetic warrior broke through, it was an ascension, making their genes more perfect and their potential stronger. If Lu Yuan was unable to break the gene lock, his limit would have reached that position when his gene chain was refined to 100%. However, after breaking the genetic lock, he had a new limit. Lu Yuan opened his eyes, and a hint of surprise flashed in his eyes. He clenched his fist and felt the new power surging in his body. He smiled. He had broken through to the first rank. However, there were still things to be done. Lu Yuan took a deep breath and looked at the dark blue evolution cube that was spinning around the gene strands. Let's start the evolution. With a thought, wisps of blue light merged into the first gene chain. Humph, just like the first evolution, the first segment of the gene chain, which was originally stable, began to reorganize. Lu Yuan's muscles, bones, organs, and other parts of his body seemed to have been torn apart and reforged. What followed was intense pain. The pain this time was even more intense than when he evolved from normal to elite. After all, he was going to evolve his elite.grade gene to the leader.grade. Lu Yuan could not help but groan. His face turned pale and he broke out in a cold sweat. As the evolution progressed, the first segment of the gene chain, which was originally dazzling, began to dim again. When an elite.grade gene evolved to a leader.grade gene, there would naturally be a portion of reconstructed genes that needed to be refined. As time passed, Lu Yuan endured unspeakable pain. The blue light began to dissipate slowly, and so did the pain. As the pain disappeared, an extremely comfortable feeling spread from the depths of Lu Yuan's body. That was the joy brought about by the biological instinct after the evolution of genes and the sublimation of life. Lu Yuan opened his eyes and let out a breath of air. He could feel the powerful energy surging out from the deepest part of his body. The corner of his mouth rose, revealing an excited smile. It was a success. He clenched his fist. Although he had just evolved and had not yet refined his leader.class gene, his strength had nearly doubled. His defensive ability had also increased by nearly 3 times. Not only that, but his body's agility had also greatly improved. His original combat technique had also changed. The spirit energy in Lu Yuan's body surged, and wisps of weak red light circulated on the surface of his body. Combat skill. Red copper light.